Hey guys, just a quick little tip today for Serum 2. One of my favorite features on Serum is the particular mode of distortion, which is called Rectify. And I really like this. It's a great way to get like a gritty texture on top of your sound. So take a listen to this bass without the Rectify. Quite nice, but with the Rectify on, yeah, it's a really great way to add some extra grit that sounds kind of nice and pleasant, especially good for drum and bass and stuff like that. And yeah, I just found myself using it more recently in my sound design patches, choosing that distortion color. It seems to work quite well a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time during my sound design process, So yeah, I've got this patch here, which is actually really, really basic. I'm just using one oscillator and it's called the Oomph. And it's just down at -2 on the octaves, and I've got a bit of tube going on, and I'm just modulating the wavetable position with LFO3 here, 1/4, kind of like triangle, saw fin, shark fin kind of shape, And that's basically the whole kind of starting point for the sound, I just put in a bit of noise down here as well. I like to run the noise through into the FM so it kind of follows the rhythm of the oscillator. And then I just applied like a couple of filters, like filter 1 here is a phaser 24 minus. A little bit of cutoff movement as well. A little bit of movement on the mix. And then that goes into filter 2, which is a peak 24. It's kind of like a little mini notch filter. Yeah, that just kind of like beefs up my low end a bit. Just drawing attention to the right frequencies and driving it as well on the filters there to give a bit of extra color, But yeah, so super simple. And all the magic happens in the effects section, really. I use the Bode as well. I love this kind of unit here to add stereo, and I just mix it in quite carefully, and I sort of adjust the shift and the range. It kind of gives almost this frequency shifter kind of vibe, We create these new harmonics using it, and then kind of mix it in, and kind of play with the amount of blur, because that kind of gives you that whole character that the Bode, kind of creates, So in a bit of movement, I can kind of, put it in line with my sound already. So I'm sort of adding this like stereo harmonic movement that kind of matches up with what my oscillator is doing already, Then I put on a bit of chorus, and again, I love using the low pass filter on the chorus here, and I just mixed in the chorus effect. Only around 20% or so, because I don't want to lose too much of the mono power, of course. Then I got a tiny bit of dimension. It's really subtle, and a little bit of hyper. Just give it a little bit of stereo interest. Then here we have the Rectify, and so what I did was I put it in the low-high splitter, and it's sort of everything around 800 and above gets rectified, and it goes on my LFO as well. So I actually drive the Rectify setting from 35% or so up to 81%. And you can see it kind of changes the shape of the distortion there. And yeah, it just sounds... It's very different to the other distortion modes, and the reason why I like it is it almost feels like it kind of changes sometimes like the pitch of the distortion or the tone, like it kind of like makes it sound a little bit darker always. Like most of the time I use the Rectify mode, it takes what is previously a patch which is a little bit cheesy in a sense, and it kind of like darkens it nicely. It kind of gives it a darker kind of edge, which is great for like this kind of drum and bass, So that's why I just wanted to sort of draw attention to the Rectify setting in Serum, because basically, I've run through all of the distortion colors multiple times, you know, while I'm doing sound design. And I just settle on this one very often. So I just wanted to like share with you guys that I think this is kind of like my favorite one now, because it was previously before, like the Diode 2, I think was my favorite. But the diode kind of like really enhances what you've already got, but it doesn't have this effect of like really sort of switching up and changing the harmonics and making things all a bit darker like the Rectify does, you know? This is almost like a dark kind of noise it puts on top. I quite like it. Anyway, in this low-high splitter, I also put a convolution in after that. So just to soften up the distortion a bit more. And even just down at sort of 10%, it just helps give it a bit more stereo spread and just soften it a tiny bit, you know. It's already pretty nice before then, but I kind of like to do that anyway. Then I've got just a couple more things really. A filter, just doing some subtle movement for the sort of low mids again. Really, really subtle stuff here. Subtle bit of reverb, only 3%, and a tiny little EQ boosting somewhere in the mid-range as well, just so I'm sort of trying to like find my favorite parts of the sound and give them more attention, you know? But yeah, it sounds really great with a beat as well. I kind of, yeah, really like this sort of grittiness in the high end that the Rectify kind of did for this sound, you know? And yeah, really simple, usable sound that's super easy to create just with one wavetable, but was really taken to that next level via the but via the Rectify color, which just gave you that drum and bass dark kind of gritty edge. So I just wanted to share that with you guys in case you're like struggling for inspiration, or yeah, you're trying to improve your Serum sound design and you're doing certain things and wondering why you're not getting a certain result. Sometimes these little like tricks and techniques can help you guys out. So yeah, worth trying. Have a little spin with the Rectify mode in the high end and see how it sort of gives you a nice gritty dark texture on a lot of your patches. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if this helped you out a bit. And check out the links in my description as well for my preset packs for Serum, Vital, Phase Plant and Current. And you can also book me for one-on-one tuition, production lessons. Email me for mixing and mastering work. And come along and join me on Patreon. We've got a great community over there with a fantastic Discord. We'll be doing feedback live streams and much more. All right, that's it from me today. More from me very soon. Much love.